You're listening to the #1 podcast for nonprofit leaders, getting your nonprofit fully funded. This is the Fundraising Masterminds Podcast. Well, welcome to another episode of the Fundraising Masterminds Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Galasinski, and with me is Jim Dempsey, my co-host.
Hey, Jason.
Thank you so much for joining us. In this podcast, we discuss practical biblical principles of all things nonprofits. And we're so excited for you to join us today because we are going to be talking about starting a nonprofit and specifically in the area of getting your budget fully funded. Now, before we get into the details of how to get fully funded and how to get your budget fully funded, there's a couple things that we are going to assume before we get started. So number one, we're going to assume that you have your mission, vision, and values determined. Okay, so if you don't have that, I'm sure there's tons of resources out there on the web to help you figure that out, but that's not what this video is about. Assumption number two, we're going to assume that you already have a board of directors selected and ready to go. If you haven't done that, there's other videos that will help you determine how to find the right board. Number three, we're going to assume that you have already filed your 501c3 status and your tax status and everything with your paperwork and the legal stuff with your state is already done and ready to go. So really we've already passed like the starting point.
And you're approved and ready to start accepting donations.
And you're ready to go. And I need funding.
Yep.
To accomplish the vision and mission and values that I have set out to do.
Right.
So it's easy to make a budget, because all you got to do is figure out, well, what is it going to cost for me to accomplish this?
Right.
And you just write it down, right?
Yeah.
How many people do I need to hire? What's it going to take to do X, Y, and Z?
Yep.
You write it all down. But the trick is, how do I get the funding for that? You know, there's a lot of things that come to my mind. Some of the things I wrote down were, there's foundations out there, there's grants, there's loans, there's fundraising techniques, right? And there's investors, out there that will invest in, there's like angel investor type people, right? So it's a little bit overwhelming. And certainly when you dig into each one of those, there's a whole strategy around every single one of those things that I just mentioned. Right. And it's a little overwhelming to know, well, where do I start and how do I do this?
Right.
So Jim, what do you recommend in this sea of funding possibilities? Where do we start?
Well, I like to start with the area of public relations. I think it's so important for you to get your message out. The last thing you want to do is be the best kept secret in your community. And that happens to so many organizations. They're doing great work, but nobody ever hears about them. So you need to start out with a plan and a strategy to get your message out to the community, whatever that will take. If that starts with social media, if that involves going to speak at organizations, look for ways to promote it within churches, other avenues. Take advantage of that. Secondly, you're going to need some individuals to come alongside. It's difficult to run a nonprofit by yourself. And human resources are the most valuable commodity that you can possibly have. So recruiting of volunteers and even potential staff, once you start to get funded up, you want to have people in the wings that are going to accomplish your vision and your mission and that are going to be project managers and help to run some of these strategies. And of course, then you're going to want to find the funds that we need, but more than anything, you want the friends. So you need money in the door now, but you also want to be looking towards the future and establish those long-term relationships with people, those friends that make for success.
Now, a lot of the traps that nonprofits fall into is they fall into, I need money now, because if I get money now, I can just start going. Right. And then they think, well, I'll do that donor relationship thing later, that's right. Let's just get the money and then I can start working. And then 6 months later, 12 months later, what happens?
Well, you've essentially expended all your ammunition, essentially, because you have burned through a lot of relationships with people, and you've asked people 2 or 3 times in between, and they're just tired because they believe that all they were good for was giving money. And I talk so often about transactional relationships where individuals, our partners, feel like ATMs, and ATMs are only valuable when you need money.
Right.
And so,
well, and also when you
careful,
are raising funds that way, you're just doing it on your own, right? It's like, well, I got the money and I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And because of my vision and my values, a lot of times we just think, well, if I could just get the money, then I'll just do it.
Yeah.
And it's easier to do it on your own.
Right.
It's harder to get more people involved. And it's like, well, if I could just get the money, I'll just do it.
Yeah.
Or I'll hire the right people and we'll do it. But in the long run, you're going to run out of money.
Yep.
And then you're going to be at the exact same spot that you started.
That's right.
Except with the only exception that the people that you asked for money before remember that you asked for money before.
Yeah.
and they're going to think.
And that all you cared about was the money.
Right. And that's kind of a dangerous trap that we get stuck into.
Yeah.
So it's actually better, and take it from us, we've been doing development for over 40 years, 60 years combined knowledge. Jim worked for a nonprofit for over 38 years doing professional development, and I used to work for a software company doing fundraising events, and I also run a nonprofit. And both of us have the unique experience of working with thousands of ministries from all over America, Canada, North America, and even different places in different countries.
In Eastern Europe, yeah.
Yeah, so we have a lot of experience working with nonprofits, and I think that gives us a unique perspective here, because we can look back at all the mistakes that people tend to make early on, and we can say, try not to make these fundamental mistakes. In fact, one of the phrases that we like to say at the beginning of the show is that this show is all about practical biblical principles, right? So we're not just trying to teach you like hacks that you can do that get quick, bursts of cash,
dollars now. Yeah,
we're trying to teach you the biblical principles, right, that are going to help you in the long run. Because, honestly, if you learn the principles of proper development, you're going to be set up for the long run.
Yeah,
and
you're playing the long game, and that's what works best
and
for
I mean,
you.
this is true with all things. If you really think about it, if you wanted to start a business, there's hacky ways to make money with businesses, but there's also like principles of sales and marketing and all this stuff, right? And so if there's systems in place for running businesses, it makes sense that there would be systems or playbooks, so to speak, in the right ways to do development. So it's really best to start laying that foundation at the beginning, so that you're setting people up for building those partnerships early on.
Right. Oh yeah, without question.
So Jim, knowing that these things are so important, like you said, we want to get the message out to as many people as possible. We want to recruit people, right? We're looking for dollars now, but also long-term relationships. What are some things that we can do right now that don't involve a huge amount of, applying for grants and going out and, getting help from these big agencies? Is there anything we can do to get started?
Well, as an example, foundations generally will take 3 to 5 years before you get your first grant. Your organization will have gone under by that time. Right. And we find that really the most effective way to raise money, without a doubt, hands down, is going face to face with people. The problem is that what we found is that it can take anywhere between 18 months and 2 years to get your major donor effort off the ground.
Right.
And so you need to get started, but I don't mean just get started with money. You need to get started with friends and not just funds.
Right.
And if that's the case, we have got a strategy that hands down is better than any other strategy for helping bridge you to the point where you can start to build on your major donor.
Right.
And that's referred to as the perfect vision dinner strategy. Having an event that will allow you to not only reach the people who are currently giving to you, but also it is an effective new donor strategy, because you are recruiting table hosts from the people who currently help you.
Right.
And you are getting those individuals to invite their friends most of which are brand new, never heard of your organization before. And you are building an immediate base of money. You're getting gifts tonight, but you're also getting long-term commitments with people.
Yeah, one of the reasons why I like the Perfect Vision Dinner is because we use the table host model.
Right.
And we're not selling tables or getting people to purchase tickets.
Right.
But what we're doing is we're asking, if you're starting with your core people that you already know.
Right.
So what I found is that people tend to not give to things they don't know or to people they don't know.
Right.
So we're always going to start with that core people that we already know.
Right.
But we're going to ask them to host a table, right? And then those people are going to fill a table of 10, and they're going to bring other potential people. We're asking for them to think and be considerate of, who might be interested in giving to support this ministry long term. So they definitely are aware that this nonprofit is starting. They're aware of the vision. They're excited about it, and they're going to bring people in, right? And when we go do the Perfect Vision Dinner, we have a very specific program that we take people through. Right. And we call it the program ARC. And it's a specific 2 hours and 15 minute to the T, is designed to take people through the journey of learning what the problem is of the organization, what you're going to do about it.
The solution.
Right. And also just how you're going to make a difference in the community over the long run. Right. And so we take you through the process of the 3 accelerators. We take you through the process of understanding how to make a presentation, how to do a proper appeal. There's all kinds of stuff involved in it.
Right.
But it's not a sales pitch. Right. It's really designed to be like a family environment, where we're gathering people together.
And you're just presenting opportunities for involvement.
Right. So we know that this works. How many times have you done this vision dinner, Jim?
Well, I've done it over 2,500 times. I stopped counting at 2,500. So, and what I found is what's so effective of this, number one, people get into their seats and come to the event because a friend invited them. But it's up to us as a nonprofit organization to present our mission, vision, and values in an effective manner. And there's no better way to ensure your success than the Perfect Vision strategy.
Let me tell you guys a story. So last year, a friend of mine was interested in starting a Christian school, and I didn't even realize that he was thinking about starting a Christian school, but we ran across each other. We hadn't seen each other in a while, found out through just a natural course of a conversation, hey, we're going to start a Christian school this fall. And, as I was asking more about it, and, he said, well, we're kind of short in money right now, but, we are going to plan to do a gala. We had reached out to a fundraising consultant, and he told us, you need to do a gala. And that's all he told us. So we just started researching how to do a gala, and this is what happens to a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Someone tells them you got to do this. They don't know how to do it. So they're just like, okay, well, I guess we got to do it. So they start researching how to do a gala.
Right.
And then they had their own experience of galas that they've been to.
Yeah.
And from their experience, what they had experienced was like kind of, ticketed events where you charge, $150 or $200 per ticket.
Yeah.
And you go there and there's entertainment, and it's kind of like a really ritzy date night. You know? And they have silent auctions. They have all this stuff, right? And you go, and it's like, this ritzy thing. And, they had this idea of a gala, and they didn't really know how to do it. They had their own experiences, and they started researching, what's in a gala and what makes a gala. And there's all kinds of stuff out there that is meant to make you feel like the more you do, the more successful you will be. Right. But we've actually
included
found
auctions even.
Yeah. We've actually found that it's the opposite. Yeah. It's actually the opposite. We found that the more that you focus on more things, like auctions and, selling tickets sounds like a great idea because, you're covering your costs and, but there are reasons why we don't do that. And we explain all that in the vision dinner. We in the course, we lay it all out for you. We go through every single faulty way that people do vision dinners. Right. And then we break it all down for you and tell you why that's not going to work. And then we give you the right recipe. Right. And it really is a recipe, right?
It is.
Doing 2,500 dinners over 40 years, you know exactly what works and what doesn't because you've tried it all. Yep. And we've gotten to the point where I don't think I've heard one story that it hasn't worked.
Right.
Even when things go dramatically bad.
Right. That's right.
So if this is something that you are interested in, I would definitely encourage you to check it out. You can learn more about it at our website, fundraisingmasterminds.net. You can click the link in the video or in the podcast. And, if this is something that you just would love to learn more, or you have questions, definitely write it in the comments. Just say, I never heard of this before, or just whatever questions you have, we would be happy to address anything and just start the conversation. But honestly, we have literally started nonprofits. I can think of, 5 or 6 just in the last 2 years of people who had a vision, wanted to get started, and they were going down this road, just like this guy that I was talking about. Yeah. And we redirected them, trained them on the right way to do it. And within 4 months, they had all the funding that they needed.
Right.
And their budget was like $150,000, and they raised $150,000. In this area of the school, I think they needed to raise $80,000, and they were able to raise even more than that. I think they raised double what they thought they were going to raise, and they were blown away because it was easier than they thought it would be. And as a result, they ended up getting the funding that night, along with Partners for Life.
Right.
And when we say Partners for Life, that's actually an acronym. Can you explain that real quick?
Oh, yes. Partners for Life. You're looking for individuals who are going to invest their labor, their influence, their finances, and their expertise. Those 4 areas combined make for the perfect life partner.
Right. And so how does the Vision Dinner allow that to happen?
Well, it really provides an opportunity across the board. We focus in on one area at the dinner. We focus in on that finance area because the scripture tells us where your treasure is, that's where heart will be also. But people get so excited and so enthused about the opportunities at the dinner and what the organization is doing that we follow up with opportunities for them to volunteer, to give us the names of their friends, and to come alongside and help us either in an advisory or full board area with their expertise. And so it builds an enthusiasm, momentum like nothing else.
Right. Well, we found that people give more to vision and impact than they do to trinkets and
without question,
toys, essentially,
and candy, whatever. Yeah.
Right. So that's ultimately what the Vision Dinner is it's essentially gathering potential people together and pitching them your vision and getting them excited about the potential impact that they will have.
Right.
And they're gonna vote with their dollar.
Right.
And we give you the tools that you need to be successful. But like I said, I haven't seen one fail yet, and we've done a lot of them. So if that's something that you're interested in, again, go to fundraisingmasterminds.net. Also, just wanted to say that it is a live course. We only work with a limited amount of organizations. We work with about 50 organizations per season, and it's designed to be a live course. So there's videos that you watch, and then we have meetings, and we hold you accountable. You can ask us questions, and it's really a great incubator to learn about something that maybe you've never tried before. Jim and I's personal mission and goal in our lives is to help nonprofits get fully funded. I mean, that's what we feel like we've been called to do in this world right now.
Well, and I remember you asked me, Jason, when we were starting the course, you said, are we doing everything that we can to make this the most successful event and curriculum for people? And I said, well, actually, the only other thing we could do is meet regularly with people. And you said, great idea, let's do it. And I jumped in with both feet. And we think
one of the best things we did.
It is. We get such great feedback from those individuals who've gone through.
We found that anyone can sign up for a course. Anyone can buy a book. Actually reading the book or going through the course is another story, right?
Right.
So we're not interested in just selling you a course.
No.
We're interested in getting you fully funded.
Right.
And part of that is going to be the accountability. Because it's going to be a lot of work, and you're going to get tired, and you're going to need us there to cheer you on and say, you're doing a good job, keep going. You missed your mark this week, but you can get back on track, and we're going to help you. We're going to guide you in your specific scenario, right? And that's what makes this course unique.
We'll be your guide down that pathway and that journey to success of getting fully funded.
Right. So that is our answer for getting your budget fully funded. So again, I know you've already gone through the work of getting your nonprofit up and running. And at this point, you've made a budget, you're excited, you're looking for funding. And we would encourage you to not go down the road of foundations and grants and loans and even doing fundraising events. You might raise money doing fundraising events. A lot of people do fundraising events, but the problem with those is that it doesn't build those long-term relationships. And that's the most important thing that you need as a nonprofit is those long-term relationships.
If they're not done right, not done properly, you're going to burn through people, and it actually will be the worst thing you could possibly do.
Right. So thank you so much for joining us. If you found this helpful, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Also, smash that like button or subscribe on YouTube. If you found this on a podcast, you will know that there's lots of episodes to catch up on, but we're also on YouTube as well. So we're videotaping these sessions, and you can watch us or you can listen to us, whichever way is convenient to you.
And like and subscribe, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. And so thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you on the next episode.